Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we've got just a fantastic story for you. It's about AI, it's about language, and it's a classic underdog tale.
It really is. We're diving into a paper called TigerCoder, a novel suite of LLMs for code generation in Bangla. And it's a perfect case study of how a small, focused team can tackle a massive problem that the giants in the field have missed.
Yep. So here's how we're going to break it down. We'll start by looking at a huge gap in the AI world, then figure out why the biggest, most famous models are actually failing at this specific task. And finally, we'll see how this team built a new solution from scratch and, well, totally crushed it. Okay, so let's set the stage. The whole story really kicks off with this one number, 242 million. That's the number of people who speak Bangla. I mean, to put that in perspective, it's the fifth most spoken native language on the entire planet. Exactly. It's a massive global language. But here's the problem. When it comes to AI tools that can help people write computer code, Bangla has been pretty much ignored. This leaves a huge community of developers, students, and tech creators kind of out in the cold. So, faced with this problem, the researchers started with a really fundamental question. You could call it research question one. They asked, hey, what happens if we take these huge, state-of-the-art AI models everyone's talking about and just prompt them in Bangla instead of English? Do they still work? And the answer was a spectacular no. I mean, just look at this chart. The performance absolutely tanks. These models that are geniuses in English suddenly can't get it right. Look at Llama. It goes from a 78% success rate all the way down to 22% when you switch to Bangla. That's not just a drop. That's falling off a cliff. Okay, so that leads to the next logical thought, right? If the models just really prefer English, what if we meet them halfway? Research question two was basically, can we just use something like Google Translate to turn the Bangla prompt into English first? Is that the easy fix? You would absolutely think that's the solution. But, and this is the part that's so interesting, it actually made things worse. For most of these big models, translating the prompt first resulted in even lower scores. So what on earth is going on here? Well, it all boils down to context. See, coding isn't like casual conversation. It uses super specific keywords that have precise meanings. A generic translation tool doesn't get that nuance. It might see the Bangla word for print, as in print a line of code, and translate it to stamp, like a rubber stamp. Or a list of data becomes a roster of people. That kind of mix-up just completely confuses the AI. So the existing models weren't working, and the simple workarounds were failing. The team realized they couldn't use any off-the-shelf tools. They had to build everything themselves. I love their analogy. To build a new kind of race car, you first have to build a brand new racetrack to test it on and invent a whole new kind of fuel to power it. So first up, the racetrack. This is their benchmark, called NBPP Bangla. It's the standard they'll use to judge performance. And this wasn't some quick automated process. This was painstaking human work. They had native speakers translate almost 1,000 programming problems, curated correct answers, and then had a third expert check every single one. Quality control was everything. And then they needed the fuel. They created 300,000 instruction and code pairs in Bangla. And they didn't just use one method, they used three. One was seeded by humans, another was purely AI-generated to get lots of variety, and a third came from carefully adapting a top-notch English dataset. This gave them a really rich, diverse mix to train their model with. All right, the racetrack is built. The high-octane fuel is ready. It was finally time to build the race car, TigerCoder. This isn't some massive do-everything model. It's a smaller, specialized AI that has been specifically trained, or fine-tuned, to do one thing and one thing only: understand coding instructions in Bangla. Yeah, and that term fine-tuning is key. It's an incredibly powerful and efficient idea. You don't start from zero. You take a pretty good general model, in this case, one called Tiger LLM, and you just continue its education, but only using your new, super high-quality, specialized data set. It really is like taking a talented athlete and training them to become an Olympic-level specialist in one event. And that brings us to the main event, the moment of truth. How does this small, specialized TigerCoder stack up against the Goliaths of the AI world? We're talking about a model with about 9 billion parameters going up against models that are up to 27 times larger. It's a real David versus Goliath situation. And the result is, frankly, stunning. You can see the story right here in this chart. The base model they started with, Tiger LLM, it was okay, scoring 61%, but after fine-tuning it with that special fuel they created, TigerCoder's score skyrockets to 82%. That's a huge leap, and it blows past the previous best model, Gemma 3, which is 3 times bigger. The little guy didn't just win, it dominated.
And this really gets to the heart of it all, which the authors say so perfectly in their paper. This work proves that it's not just about getting bigger and bigger, it's about being smarter. Carefully curated, high-quality data is the real game changer here.
Exactly. And that's why this paper is so important beyond just this one language. What this team has created is a blueprint, a recipe that other researchers can follow. It shows that we can build amazing, high-performing AI for so-called low-resource languages without needing planet-sized models. It's a path toward a more inclusive and equitable AI future.
It's just such an incredible story of smarts over scale. It really makes you excited to see what comes next, What other language communities are going to get their own breakthrough? A huge thanks for joining us on This Explainer.
Thanks for tuning in, everyone.